Okay, so welcome to our very first. This is the inaugural social work research peer support group. So open to social workers who are either doing a job where they have to research, or to people like you and me, Anne-Marie, PhD students, or master students by research, not by coursework, or I guess even honours students, because I think honours in social work now, that after they've done their 4 years or not? Do you
No,
know?
it's in the end of your 4 years, but yeah, it's a research thing.
It's
You know,
research
you
based,
produce
yeah.
a thesis. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I'm actually really open to having those honours students join us too if they want. What do you think?
yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah.
any support for anyone, I reckon, is a good idea.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I have gained so much support from these type of groups that have been opened cross-discipline and cross-university. So I first came across Professor Tara Brabazon's support groups, and they were invaluable to me. And I was living on Norfolk Island at that time, so there was no contact with anybody from a university. And then I also have another group that I belong to that we meet every Friday morning, where we do the same as we're going to do. We discuss our research and then we write silently together. But you, Anne-Marie, you're also involved in something or trying to become involved in another group, the Draw group.
Yeah, the draw group. So departing radically in academic writing, and like I read a chapter from the book this morning, and it's really inspiring to I know, think differently, but and then express it creatively so that I know it appeals to it gets the message across to a wider audience and um is emotional. It's not flat and dry. Yeah, that it actually is intended to evoke emotions, which is quite different to what I thought with academic writing. And yeah, so yeah, it sounds very, very exciting.
And that's interesting that you say that, of what you thought was academic writing. I did the same thing coming in. I had this fixed idea in my head of what a thesis is. And I was so pleasantly surprised to find out that there is a lot of creativity available to be used in theses. Yeah. And
Uh,
even doing artifact-based theses where you produce something, you produce an artifact of some description. It could be a play, it could be a giant poem, as you and I have discussed last week,
mm.
um, or a novel, and then you have a smaller academic piece that supports the thing that you've made. Beautiful. Publications. So PhD by prior publication. That wasn't around 30 years ago when I was, or more than 30 years ago now when I'm undergrad. It's so wonderful that you can be so creative.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just find it like reading the stuff that it's quite inspiring of because I'm sort of trying to put pieces together and go, you know, there's I know really opposing ideas and then all sorts of things in between and going like, where am I going and what am I doing and that sort of thing. And they're presenting a way to express that all really well. Um, yeah. So
So is draw open to anybody or not?
I think so. It's a Facebook group.
Yeah.
Um, and you fill in a little thing about you know, that you know, who your theorists are and that sort of thing. But like, I don't know who my theorists are at this point of the game, and so I did feel a bit but I just put that in there that, I'm just starting out and exploring and stuff. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
there's acceptance into the group. So it is a private group.
yeah.
But yeah, it seems to be anyone who's interested in that approach.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say you don't yet know who your theorists are. It took me probably a good 5 months to work out who my theorists are. And in doing that, I appreciated what it meant to be a reader at a university. I've watched movies where so-and-so is a reader at Oxford. And I always thought, what does that mean? Like, he's not a librarian because he's like a neurophysicist or something like that. So he's not a librarian. What does it mean to be a reader? Now I get it. Because
Yeah.
particularly when you're on scholarship, as you and I are, you get paid to read and to work this out. This, I guess, is the critical and the, God, what's the other word I'm looking for here? Not radical, being critical, like it's reading, as you've said, the for, the against, and all the bits in between, all the
Yeah.
dissenting views and working out what's your view on all of this? Or
Yeah.
do you even have a view? What is your SOC, your significant and original contribution to knowledge?
It's interesting because so on one hand you've got like all these, I don't know, official government-y type documents going, the research says this. And then when you go and read further and you go, well, there's actually other research that says this. And
Mhm.
yeah, just and when you're, I know, funding people with the government, yeah, just how that then I know you'd be dissenting, or just present another the other view. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting for us as mental health credentialed social workers as well, because in practice, well, certainly when I've been manager, I've had to do reports where they have to be evidence-based. And you only get like a space of this big to fill your stuff in, like what's your
Right.
evidence? How do you put in those dissenting voices? But I guess there is an understanding that we would have already done some of that research and known all of the shades of grey that occur between different beliefs. And it's evidence-based because these have been peer reviewed and have gone through a process of acceptance or rejection or discovery, whatever, which quite frankly, I'm terrified of. I'm terrified of, oh, I am. Yeah.
And apparently it's pretty normal for them to go back and forward a few times before they actually get accepted.
Papers.
Papers, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
In that
absolutely.
peer review process, but
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yeah, yeah. And if that happens to me, I want to be guided by people with a lot of experience. I don't want another Megan Bayliss sitting on the panel looking at my paper going, oh no, like she didn't do this well enough. No, I need somebody that's more experienced, more knowledgeable, has more skin in the game. So I really appreciate the people that I have worked with. And I tell you what, some of my supervisors, particular Professor Tara Brabazon, man, absolutely fantastic. I wish that I could have kept her,
Mm.
but I couldn't because of, she resigned from the university and they didn't give her adjunct status, which I'm really shitty about. Just let that be known. But she was fantastic because people with that depth of experience really pick up on, oh, don't forget this theorist, or don't forget this voice, or what does that person say about that? And going back to the theorists, it took me 5 months. It was actually, I think it might have even been Tara who introduced me to Grumsky, Antonio Grumsky, by a simple saying at one of these type of sessions where she said something along the lines of, I was talking about consciousness, and she said, oh, Gramsci would have said da 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 da. And of course I went, who the hell is Gramsci? I've
Who?
never yeah, yeah.
That would be me.
And then when I started reading him, it was, oh my God, why hasn't social work picked up on this? And then my other supervisor at that time was a Gramsci expert, and he said that he thought it was possibly because it's only probably the last 20 years where Gramsci has been, or maybe 30 years, no, 20 years, where Gramsci has been translated into English and it has begun to infiltrate our universities. But then I started researching, and I found a social work theory book that is absolutely committed to Gramsci's nuances. So for me, it was heaven.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So what's Grumpsky's
Yeah. Good,
premise?
good.
What-
He's a Marxist, and
Yeah,
he talks about hegemony, which is like the ruling beliefs
yeah,
at a political level. But I'm not so much interested in that. I'm looking at resistance in the social and cultural levels. And that my thesis is about the status quo, resisting the status quo. Well, the
yeah,
status quo is set by a ruling class who wants to keep a group of people where they are. And how do we resist that? So one of the ways we can resist is through reading, which is what all the book club stuff has been about. And it was funny, you sent me an email this week saying that you've just had a moment of connection where you saw a book on your
yeah.
book. Yeah, yes. Oh, I remember that book and I love it. But I was somewhere recently, and let me see if I can just very quickly find it. Here it is. It was actually in an antique shop in Ipswich, and I found this book about protest t-shirts. Now, I had never even considered the creativity of people resisting by the messages on their t-shirts.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, so there's another one. And of course, this is non-peer reviewed,
yeah,
um, but I'm doing a multimodal thesis, which means simply that there's more than one data collection point. I've got
yeah,
these several things. And in my write-up, in my introduction, I've clearly said that I am also using gray literature, which
yeah,
is the stuff that often the governments produce. It's not necessarily evidence-based, or if it is, they haven't got the references in there, but also popular literature. And that's why at book club, I ask people, what else do you read? Or who else do you read?
yeah, yeah,
Because that's really important to my whole argument. Yeah.
yeah,
But this was fun to read through, and
yeah,
finding out why people like Che Guevara, for example, why do they have Che Guevara on their,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, or Bob Marley, like why do they wear t-shirts?
yeah,
What does
yeah,
it represent? Yeah. And then
yeah,
why do people have dreads? Not that I have dreads, but I only have to go one day without brushing my hair and I've got dreads. Why do they have dreads? What is the message that gives as a form of resistance?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
just going to put
Well,
this back.
yeah,
But go on, keep talking.
yeah. My son actually did a um haircut and piercings as a form of resistance, that the people he worked for were very anti young people with piercings, tattoos, mohawks, etc. And he wanted to show them that like he was still the same person with a red mohawk and
Yeah,
a piercing in his ear and,
yeah,
and he
yeah.
actually went and did that to um yeah, to stick up for the other young people around the place that just, yeah, he was the same person, whether he had his curly hair or his mohawk,
Red mohawk. Yeah.
red mohawk. Yeah, so he had this wild red mohawk.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, everybody resists in their own way.
Yeah,
And You might remember from book club, from the data collection, that Brene Brown actually nominates that there's 6 different ways that people seek change. And of course, when you're resisting, you are seeking change.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I remember you saying that after hearing that list, you're not, you started to doubt yourself. You thought that you weren't resisting enough, but you
Mm,
only have to resist in one area. And
mm,
it's accepting people, whether they've got tats and red mohawks or not. It's
yeah, yeah,
everybody resists in their way, in the best way that they can. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There
I'm
was
um I'm resisting the heat at the moment, by
uh,
putting the air conditioner on, which is
yeah.
terrible, for the environment, but I can't survive in that, high humidity. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I've decided that you know how the government gave us our $1,000 no, was it just
Electricity
Queensland
rebate. Yeah, yeah,
um gave us $1,000 thing that actually wasn't very good for greenhouse gases and
yeah,
pollution and stuff because people would go including me go well this isn't actually going to cost me anything. I'm hot and I'm going to put the aircon on where there is
yeah,
a cost, like yeah.
yeah.
And I've still put the air conditioner on because it is hot. But I just think it wasn't a very wise way to put money out there because I suppose it's they're controlling how we spend our money. And they um it can increase demand on the electricity system. Like it was yeah, I just think it's a bit crazy.
Plus, it was pre-election, so yes, an election promise that yeah hasn't
Yes.
steered them in any sort of very good place at all. Yeah, because
Yeah.
we've
Hey,
now had a change of government.
yeah. Hey, another one of the ones with resistance that I like during COVID, and I had a look this morning to see if they were still up there, but they're not. There was stitch and resist things where people were doing crossword cross stitch and stuff things to put their messages out there, and some of them were really really good.
Yeah,
But it is, yeah.
yeah. So just recently, I've had this discussion with somebody who their view of resistance is old school. And it's you get what you resist. So why do you want to study resistance? Because you get what you resist. And I know that message from like at a spiritual level. You get what you resist. You get more of the same. It comes
Yeah,
straight
yeah,
at you. But it's about creative resistance and the craftivism that you're talking about there with the stitch and
yeah.
resist. So craftivism is the marriage of social activism to craft. And it's a beautiful, gentle way that doesn't hurt anybody to have your voice heard. It's not about you get what you resist. It's
No.
about psycho-educating people. Like somebody's going to see that message and think, oh, that's a really pertinent point. But if you're out there, with your placards, yeah, and
Yeah.
yelling and screaming, I've stopped listening to that. And I used to be one of those people that was a placard waver. But I got over myself and I've really, it's not that I'm confronted. I guess I'm bored with that same message of people chanting and yelling and screaming and flipping this up and down. I'm looking for something different, right?
Yeah,
So I love the idea of craftivism as a form of resistance,
yeah.
or reading as resistance.
Eating those
Like,
resistance, yeah. And that's I know it's academic stuff now, but like there's another one here that I got was um facilitating community research for social change. That finding the ones that lead to something, that you're not just doing the research for research sake, that it's actually I want to achieve something by doing, and achieve something for our town. That's my thing is,
So that's interesting too, because when you do a PhD, you're being assessed on can you research at a higher level, right? So that's what the assessment process is all about. But I guess the difference with social research, and certainly for social workers, is that we're invested in making a difference to either our town or our city or our state or globally. I don't want my research to be wasted, and you're saying exactly the same thing. But Emery, tell us about your research. What do you think you're going to be doing?
I'm connected with the 10,000 hours project, which is the 10,000 hours is the amount of time a kid would spend in daycare from if they went in soon after birth to them entering the school system. And so they're doing a lot about quality education and care, and my research is attached to that. At the moment, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing. Like, I'm really interested in like reducing adverse childhood experiences and increasing positive ones as a way of increasing their readiness to school, even, because of having the ACEs impact on their social and emotional and cognitive development, which means they're at a disadvantage when they start school. So interested in that part of it. But at the moment, I'm sort of looking at whether I look at the well-being of those involved in their care. So the well-being of the kindergarten and daycare educators, those in the health field that, they connect with, and with the parents and carers, because that influences with the parents and carers impacts obviously on the child's well-being straight out and the number of ACEs that they're exposed to, but it also impacts on whether they're likely to attend kindergarten and that sort of thing. So but
So
needs a lot of narrowing down yet.
but of course, like, you're at the beginning of it. So, these next few months, as you're reading, you are going to narrow it down. And when it comes to starting to write your confirmation of candidature, that was when it really narrowed for me. And I attended a couple of HDR programs around writing, and the words that were said in one of them was, you've got to start writing at some stage, make it today. And that, I wish that I had heard that message right at the beginning, because I actually would have done my notes differently. When I'm reading all of this stuff, I would have done my notes into a single document, so that already my literature review was starting to take shape. But instead, in true Megan style, I write notes on, like, on the bottom there. I have stuff everywhere. I do have a research diary as well that occasionally I write things in it, but then this is my default, going back to, So I am trying to change that. Now, speaking of writing, shall we do some silent writing together?
That sounds like a good idea, because that way I will actually write and
So we just both put ourselves on mute, and we'll write, what's the time now? So my clock says it's 9:37. Why don't, just for today, and this is the start, Let's go to 10:15.
Yep.
That's by my clock, right?
By
So,
clock. Okay.
yeah. So I will set a timer and we'll go from there, all right?
Okie dokie. Very good.
All right, so start writing. Just one more minute, Anne-Marie, to just wrap it up. Right? Okay, how'd you go? I can't hear you. You're still on mute.
Yep. Yeah, that was actually really quite productive.
It's amazing how that happens.
Yes. Yeah. No,
What were you writing about?
I was writing about the same sort of thing as I was talking about. So, uh, the two sort of sides of things. The uh, education, early education and care is supposed to have the biggest impact on those who are most disadvantaged, and those who are most disadvantaged are usually Aboriginal people. And then what like why is that? Is it I know, teaching them our culture, and further colonizing the whole show. We teach them to fit in early, and so then they have better educational outcomes. But then within the system, if they don't fit the system, well, they then struggle for success. So yeah.
And in Northern Territory, we just lock them up when they're 10 and they do something wrong.
Oh, I was watching that program last night, and yeah.
Yeah, it's very difficult, isn't it?
It was actually interesting that they were showing that program after the election. I thought it was, yeah.
So the election was Queensland. Is Queensland?
Oh, right, yep.
Is Queensland doing the age 10 criminal responsibility or not?
No, I don't think so.
No. Well, not yet, maybe.
No.
Yeah.
But like, are we recording?
We are recording, yes.
Political views. No, there was a local representative for up here, and I thought, oh, really good having somebody, local to the area, knows the issues and that. And then when you read their platform, the first thing is lock the kids up. And yes, yeah, no, that's
So
how can you have a platform that's lock the kids up? That's
well, it's the antithesis of what we believe through our training. So not everybody has our training, or not everybody has the grassroots engagement with Indigenous people as people. not as an Indigenous person, but just as people.
Yeah.
So there's no, with you and me, there is no discriminatory practice. Although if ever I do enter into discriminatory practice, I need to know, because you've talked about the colonial influences,
Yeah.
and there's so many decolonizing research methods around too that I had no idea of. So we only know what we know. But this entire journey that we're now on is going to open up our eyes to so much more. But yeah, in terms of research that makes a difference, I think that you're really well placed because you are absolutely going to make a difference. And thank you for doing what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. So what did you write about?
Bibliotherapy. I was just going through the different stages of bibliotherapy and then the different steps.
Yeah.
And as you know, bibliotherapy is a passive form of psychoeducation, but I'm actually arguing the opposite, that it is active in terms of the individual, whereas psychoeducation is passive. It depends on the lens that you approach it. So if, as practitioners, if we're the ones doing the psychoeducation, that's active for us, but it's totally passive for the client.
I'm just thinking though, like, is it about, I don't know, what do you ignite within the other person? So if you're doing psychoeducation and you've got an approach that resonates and ignites something in the other person that they will take action. But the same with the book, you know, like it needs to have that thing that resonates
For them. Yeah.
for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I find myself thinking a lot about when I do debriefs and the psychoeducation that goes into debriefs, particularly in the third stage of a debrief. So there's fact, there's feeling, and then there's symptom education. So I try very hard to make that an active process for whoever, whether it be a group debrief or an individual debrief. I might be the one that holds some certain information, but I try and draw it absolutely from the group. I normally do group debriefs to try and make that process more active. But then that's my lens, my positionality, which is important for us to know as researchers. Why do we choose the things that we do? Like, what's our subjective lens in all of this as well? Yeah, it's really interesting. But I think that is enough for today. So
Indeed.
I will get this on to YouTube,
Yep.
and certainly for your AASW CPD log, you could possibly just put the link in.
Yep.
So it's proof that we've almost been going for an hour and a half. So it's an hour and a half of that. This will also act as a research diary for all of us, particularly if there's particular things you want to talk about. Certainly, I have used some of the group that I was involved in with Tara. I've linked to that in part of my thesis as well, because there were certain conversations that I am going to use as data. So it's another reference. And, you know, referencing, do you reference to APA 7 or what, do you know what? Yeah, okay, so, okay. Yeah, okay, so they have exactly how to reference a YouTube video, for example. So you can put all of that in too. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
All right. I
Thank
will
you.
see you. Oh, you're most welcome. See you next Monday, same time, same place, same channel. And yeah, ANU, was it? No. No, it wasn't ANU. So, I had contact with somebody from one of the other big universities, and they were passing it on to their social work HDR students. So I do hope it grows to just more than the two of us. But thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
And I'll
Okay.
see you again
See ya.
soon.
Yep.
Bye.